And I think it says that we're live. Let me see if I have a thing yet on the channel. No, it still says set reminder.
Mine says live.
It does say live. It does say live. Haha. Hello, everyone. This is Max from Just Plain Science. Today we got special guest. We have Frank from King's Table, who has a channel. I have a link to his channel in the description. He's been doing fundamentalist Christian type content for the last year. I also have a link to me, and Jeremy also did join us, and I'll add his link in later. My channel is a fundamentalist Christian channel too. We go through doctrine basics, a lot of stuff over there at Max Bauer Productions. Tonight, though, we got Frank here because Frank doesn't know a whole lot about flat Earth, and we want to get a layman's terms, general questions that people might have out there about flat Earth from someone who is vested in the Bible, vested in Christianity, about what questions they may have about the Bible. Now, see, what I find fascinating there is the people that actually have a sound religious foundation in, like Christianity or even some other sort of cultish religions out there that still have a fundamental moral base to them. They don't really have too much of a problem with flat Earth, and they actually are open to the idea and want to hear the arguments, whereas the people with no moral foundation and hate God, well, they can't have a flat Earth now, can they? Because then they got to come to grips with the fact that somebody probably made it. So, Frank, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and how about some questions right off the top of the bat of like maybe where you heard of flat Earth or something?
Yeah, my name is Frank, and been just doing some Christian content on the YouTube for about a year and a half. Generally, like I think with flat Earth, I heard it a lot from what's that channel called? Modern Day Debate. I've heard it a lot on there. With this, I forget what the guy's name is that does that on there, but from him, and there's a few others. I just can't remember what their names were, but very interesting topic and a lot of good evidence. But it's something to get used to, because this is something like it's like, how do you guys get this right? So it's a lot of good questions to have to ask and stuff like that to see where this thought comes from.
Is there a question in particular, or you just thought it was interesting, or you didn't outright object to the very notion of it, or what was your reaction to somebody saying, yeah, the Earth is flat, and they actually have a decent argument?
Well, the thing is I think when I first heard it, I flat out just rejected it flat.
Same. Imagine that.
It was just something like, how do you get this out of, because you see all these things. It's like science showing you it's a globe and that it's round and stuff like that. And it's like, wow, okay, then that's what it is. And then here comes this group of people that are saying that it's flat. And it's like, what? Forget that.
We got a globe in the classroom. I don't know what these guys are talking about.
Well, I think you get a lot of Christians too that, they make it sound like a sphere, right? Like a circle, like a ball, right? So, and so then you're convinced by that, because this is all that you ever heard from certain Christians, like, for instance, Kent Hovind, or pretty much name anybody, they would have told you that was round. So are
you a geocentrist currently, or?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely a geocentrist.
So you don't believe the Earth moves, right?
No, I think it's stationary.
Okay. So that's how I initially got into it way back when. I was convinced completely that the Earth just didn't move. And then going from that to being flat, it's like, yeah, okay. I mean, that requires a vast amount of conspiracy. If you just are a geocentrist, it's really hard because of relativity. You wouldn't be able to really tell what is moving and what's stationary. Yeah. It's only according to the Bible that you go, oh, okay, the Earth is stationary and everything is created around us. From Genesis all through it, everything starts with the Earth and us, because we're very special. Yeah. And so it's like, yeah, geocentrism, cool. And then you go off into the flat Earth thing, and of course I was the same thing. I'm like, no way. But these are some very good arguments. Yeah. Yep. And then going in there to research the arguments, and they go, yeah, we got ourselves an evolution problem here, where none of the stuff they say makes any sense.
Yeah, and like, is this all that it is? It's just like, well, like evolution. If you don't have that, then science is wrong, right? And then they don't allow science to be wrong. So it's kind of like that same mindset of an argument that they have towards flat Earth or geocentricity and stuff like that.
Well, geocentricity, it uses all of mainstream science models, and then once you realize that their mainstream science models are breaking fundamental rules of science, then you know that they probably can't be right. And I mean, the biggest thing, well, we'll get into this, of course, but there's some basic things that anybody can do, like can hit pause on the stream and go outside and actually go look and go see and prove to themselves it's flat. It doesn't take me up here demonstrating a model of how the sun, moon, and stars work and all this stuff. It's like, no, go outside and look at a landmark far away and see it, something as simple as that. And you reach this point where you just really can't deny it. The main reason for people denying is pretty much chastisement and getting browbeaten. And it's like, well, if you're a fundamentalist Christian, man, you're already pretty scarred and battered from that. So, going the extra step, why not?
Yeah.
So, from what is the main question that kind of piqued your interest there with flat Earth?
Well, there was a few things that that you guys even talked about, like for instance, like a little while ago, we were in Mexico, right? And there was this town that was across the water, and you couldn't see the ground or like the dirt, right? So, but you could see the buildings, and so if you would take binoculars, then you would see the beach line out there.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So that kind of was interesting to me. Like, okay, it's if the Earth is curving, then I shouldn't be able to see that regardless. But yeah, you can. If you take binoculars or a strong enough telescope, you can actually see a shoreline. So that doesn't make any sense. Why can you see it if it's bending?
Well, they would say that would be light refraction and mirages.
Yeah.
That is the official answer. So every single time, repeatable every single day of your life, repeatable anywhere where you see from a shoreline farther than 3 miles, 100% of the time they will say light refraction and mirages, because they have to. Because 3 miles out, if a person is 6 feet tall roughly and you're standing on the shore of a lake and you can see farther than 3 miles out, you shouldn't be able to, because the curve of the Earth would obscure 6 feet. You know what I'm saying? That's why they go to that argument with the boats. You see, when the boats go farther than 3 miles out to sea, they start disappearing because you can't see, they start going behind the curve. That's the argument. Well, then you bring out any sort of optic. It doesn't even really need to be that good, because your eyes are limited in just how far they can perceive things. You take out any sort of an aid for your eye, like a camera or telescope or binoculars or anything that has a zoom function, and you can zoom right on in, and the horizon raises right up behind it. Yeah. So they're not going anywhere. So the only explanations for that are the Earth is a lot bigger than what they tell us it is, or it's flat. And then, of course, there's other experiments you can do. But they're holding fast, man. They're holding fast to the Earth is 25,000 miles around. And if they're going to hold fast to that, they have to hold fast to 8 inches over miles squared out to about 1,000 miles. I mean, it's just the way that it works, and people will, who want to deny that, will jump into light refraction and poo-poo it and go immediately to, well, your model doesn't work of how the sun, moon, and stars and blah, blah. Until you come up with a model, I don't have to believe in it. It's like, no, we don't have to prove anything. Only thing we have to prove is that your globe model and heliocentricity model doesn't work. That's it. Once we do that, then we can all start looking for answers as to what the truth is. If you know your model is broken, you don't need to ask me about some other fantasy model and how it works. Right? Because everybody just wants to have the answers to everything so they can feel comfortable. It's like, nobody has those. Nobody has the answers to everything. The Bible's been around for thousands of years, and hey, people don't know everything that's going on in that either. And we've been doing this for years and years. At least I have on YouTube, like 6-7 years now. It's like, I get questions and stuff, and I'm like, well, it kind of looks like this, but I don't know. So that's the situation with the flat Earth. So is there a particular question that you had that you'd want to be answered as a layman? Or
let's see. There was so the sun, it just basically is above us, and it just goes in a circle. Like it doesn't go around the Earth; it just circles the Earth. If it's a flat Earth, right?
Correct.
Then it just goes in circles. So,
you mean like how would it work for seasons and all that stuff?
Yeah, like how would that work?
There is models out there, and there's actually a very accurate application called like Flat Earth Sun Moon Time app that's done by Dave Weiss, who is actually, kudos to Dave Weiss. He's a really good flat earther guy who came in and commented on, we reviewed his hoax book, and he commented on it and brought a whole bunch of new people to the channel. So that's great. So we'll always plug Dave Weiss. He has a Sun Moon Earth app on the apps machine, and I'm going to try and look up here if I can find how that model works so you can get a visual representation here.
Yeah, if you have something like that, that'd be awesome, because then I could kind of explain it a little bit better and possibly, use that as something I could use. Because just thinking of how or explaining it, it doesn't come out as right or as well as what it should. So,
sure.
But I guess
I'd have his app, and unfortunately, I don't have a smartphone, so it would, and his app isn't going to do me too much good.
Yeah.
Well, I can show you here is a is like a non-animated version of it, where you have the sun line going through here, and then like I guess the moon line. Well, Jeremy, you're on a phone, so I guess you couldn't look, but
yeah, I can see it.
The sun moves in and out depending on the seasons.
Yeah.
But that's effectively what it is. It works the same way in like a globe, where instead of the Earth spinning, the sun is moving.
So that the center, it has ice there, but the perimeter of the Earth is also ice. Like an ice wall.
There's ice in the North Pole, magnetic pole, and then there's ice around the outside, and then the sun would travel in a circle around the middle, and it's whether or not it's circling up towards the top or circling up down towards the bottom is going to determine the seasons.
Interesting.
I couldn't find an animated GIF. I don't know who does some of these, so I don't know how accurate. And we're going to say, oh, well, that's obviously bogus, but this is a animation of what some guy figures. And of course, then automatically you're going to have people say, well, that doesn't work because of blah, 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 blah. And yeah, this is just a visual representation of sort of what we witness and observe. And this is just putting it down on a very basic framework.
Yeah. Well, one thing that interested me last time was I have a picture. I just can't really show it on here, but you had the sun that it went down, and there was still quite a bit of light there from the sun. And then the moon was like right behind it. It was like right close to the sun, but it was only a sliver of a moon. So how does that work?
It doesn't. Like it doesn't on a globe model. It doesn't on a globe model because somewhere they used to say phases of moon, of course, from the shadow of the Earth, but then they had to acknowledge that no, it couldn't be, because obviously everybody sees the moon and the sun in the same part of the sky sometimes. So it can't be. And then their big one now is like, well, what about eclipses? You can't explain eclipses on a flat Earth. And I'm like, well, you can't explain the phases of the moon on anything. I mean, This is the thing is like, we need to justify something that we witness in the sky on a flat Earth. And it's like, we don't have to justify anything. We can see too far, period. That's it. We can see too far. We've got balloons, flat earthers ascend up over 100,000 feet. Weather balloon, 120,000 feet that I have on the screen, and it's flat. And you can say that it's camera effects or Photoshop or something like that, but there's too many of them. There are too many independent people putting up photos, just like there's too many independent people doing long distance photography. And the world record for photography is something like 200 miles. So that's way too far. to be able to see anything.
Yeah.
And, you know, granted, it's looking from mountaintop to another mountaintop, but still it is 200 miles to where you're going to have like 25, 30 miles should have been behind curvature.
That is interesting.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess I could keep looking for the model there, but I don't know if there was something else you had. Another question that you might have while I plug away on the computer and try and find a model for you.
Let's see. So is there like something that, because I think you guys don't go to gravity, right? Like you guys don't believe that is right.
Well, everyone's got a different take on that. Gravity in the terms, nobody believes in gravity in the way that Einstein says, which is there's some sort of magnetic attraction between things just because they have mass. That is stupid. I believe in gravity in the sense of things fall down. You know, they always go down. They don't fall up. And that's as far as I'll go with that. And some of that is actually, people are doing research right now to show that that is actually the case of a magnetic field, a weak magnetic field that affects everything, like a static field. And that is the reason that things fall downward. And, you know, that's interesting. But that's as far as I would go with gravity, but definitely not this idea that the farther you get away from the planet and then, you know, gravity goes away. But magically, gravity holds the atmosphere and everything else to the planet. And our atmosphere to the planet, even though we're in a vacuum of space. It does all these, gravity does all these miraculous things that just aren't logical. And no, we don't believe in that. Most people are going to, it's density and buoyancy. People have different ideas about different things on that. Is there something specific that you are wondering about, or
like how,
with regards to gravity, or
like how would that work in a, well, I guess it would be like a dome, I guess, over the earth. And I do believe there's some kind of a thing that surrounds the entire earth. I guess some people will call it what do you call
firmament.
it? Firmament. And so does flat earth have anything like that?
Yeah.
Most people are going to believe in the dome. Different. I mean, there's some that don't, and most people do. And that's where your stars are placed and all of that. The question is how close is it to the actual earth? You know, we have no way or means to know any of that, but it seems to make the most sense.
Yeah.
So I found a model here for you. So there we go.
Okay.
And I guess my internet's not wanting to play it. No.
So has there anybody ever been to this outer edge that's here, like this ice wall? Has anybody ever been there before?
Governments have. With the deal with that is they went there, did a whole bunch of research, and then they made a treaty that said no one can ever go there again. And 160 countries all around the world, right after World War II, mind you, decided they're all going to hold hands, and no one can ever go to the outer wall ever again. And because we have to protect the penguins, right? We got to protect penguins. So it's something like the 60th latitude line or something like that. We have to protect penguins. And yeah. So they went there.
What about those pictures of astronauts in space and then it looks the way that it does?
Well, they're all CGI. We unfortunately, my old live stream, the 40 minutes got cut out. We covered that whole thing where they do a really good job on the International Space Station with running things on wires. But if anyone goes out there and looks at the behind the scenes of the movie Gravity, it shows you the rigs and the contraptions that they're using to make that effect. And what it is that it looks like the astronauts don't have control over their movements like a normal person who would be on wires, until you realize that they're on wires with a person controlling the marionette that they're dangling from to give them subtle movements that are involuntary to make it look like they're floating in space. Yeah. It's all camera trickery. I have a video also on this channel. It shows President Bush went to go visit NASA, and in the background on one of the monitors, it's one of the guys who's supposed to be on the ISS in front of a green screen or blue screen. They're using a blue chroma key and holding some kind of an object they can chroma key over, so he can do his presentation to the children, right? And the person who made the original video went and found the actual stream that NASA was doing, that the guy was standing, and you could tell it was the exact same. He was using the exact same motions and the thing in his hand and everything, except it was what they showed the public. And it was a total fabrication. Yeah, with the space thing, there's a lot to it. My most recent video is also about, just the logistics of having a space station up there. You pretty much would have to be sending water up every month. Yeah. Yet they send a rocket up every 4 to 6 months, and the rocket doesn't hold enough cargo to even come close to using the water that they say they use, according to their own figures. So it's a farce. And they have the with the space station in particular, they have a full size one built in Texas, and that they say they use for training purposes. And it's like, if you're going into the hazardous vacuum of space with no gravity, why would you train in an environment that has like almost extra gravity? Yeah, you're buoyant. Yeah, but it's pressure on you as opposed to pressure coming off you. It doesn't make any sense. But, it allows them to simulate weightnesses for the cameras, and then they can green screen the entire pool. I think I got a picture of that. They green screen the entire pool and then just put in whatever background that they want to it. Yeah, I think I got one here. So this is the pool that they're working in, where the whole thing is painted blue, right? And there's your astronaut guy. And then there's your CGI. We'll just put that in there in the background. Can't have any stars because then people will figure it out. You never have any stars.
Really? So, wow.
And here's your satellites in space. This here is the space station. There is the model in front of the green screen. And there it is with the image of the Earth background.
Interesting.
And you don't get into space unless you're a very high-level Freemason and you have the top security clearance of pretty much anything on the planet. If you're an astronaut, you're up there probably with like leaders of countries as far as need-to-know stuff.
So what would be the purpose of saying that it's a globe like this?
To limit, well, obviously there's a thing. Everything, of course, is a spiritual battle, right? Everything is run by Satan. If you make people believe that they're monkeys, literally, these guys, monkeys. If you want people to believe that they're monkeys, there's nothing special about them. They came about by random chance, and life means nothing. When you died, nothing happens when you're dead. Then the only pursuit that's worthwhile is pleasing yourself. Especially if if you're on a globe in the middle of nowhere, at some remote location of the universe, is quite a bit different than being on a place that is constructed specifically for you. And you have a divine nature, and God exists and takes a very keen interest in what you are doing. And if you're good, you get rewards. If you're bad, you get cursed. So, people don't like that. People like living in their sin and their wickedness, and they don't want to hear about the bad man in the sky, as the atheists would call it. Yeah. And that's the reality of it. And then from a perspective of control, which obviously, the same royal families have been in control for thousands of years, from a perspective of control, if you say that there is no more Earth left and we've already discovered everything, it's the same nature as having an answer for everything, no matter how stupid it is. As long as you have an answer, you stop somebody from finding an answer for themselves. Okay. If you say there's no place left to explore except maybe space, which they can make up on a green screen, if you say there's no place left to explore on Earth, then nobody's going to go out and go look at things. They'll sit in their room and watch television, play video games, watch pornography, do whatever, because what's the point? Everything has already been done. I'm just an evolved monkey, and I'll do my own thing and not worry about good and evil, not worry about if truth exists, or I make my own reality and my own morality and all this stuff. It really caters to that. And yeah, it's a great way to control people. The idea that people are out there is like, it would take thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of people to know this. And I go like, well, not really. But if it took thousands, that's more. There's at least that many in the royal families. All the people that are heads of state are like all related. So families get pretty big over thousands of years, right? So yeah, it ain't that hard. And how many people have been in space? Like 25. Now the people there's been a couple hundred that have been in low Earth orbit, what they call, in like the ISS and stuff. But actually, like the moon people, a couple of dozen. Not very many people. Not very many people.
It's interesting with that pic. It has that, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, or whatever. Right? Yep. It's just kind of making everybody look dumb. Or
yeah. That's literally them though. That they're not gonna. Because they're all Masons, right? And they're not gonna tell anybody, and they're making a joke about it. I think a lot of the screw ups that NASA is doing now. They had a rocket launch. It's not NASA that does it anymore. I guess it's SpaceX, but they had a rocket launch a few weeks ago, and there was a mouse on the rocket. Like they show the image of the exhaust going off, and the moon spiraling out behind it, and there's a mouse crawling around on it. It's like, no, somebody had to have put that there, just as a wink and a nod and a thumb your nose at the stupid goyim out there consuming space as though it's a real thing, because everyone wants to believe in Star Trek. I like science fiction too, but I'm fine with it just being fiction. I'm okay with that. Actually, when you have the idea that it has no bearing on reality, it makes it actually more fun. You can do more with it.
Yeah.
Kind of like the medieval-y stuff with the wizards and all that stuff. It has no bearing on reality. You can have more fun with it.
Yeah. So then why are more Christians not leaning towards this? Like for such a long time, they hadn't leaned towards this idea. Why all of a sudden, like now?
Why don't Christians care?
Yeah, it just seems like anybody that wants to be relevant will lean towards a circle of like
most Christians don't think it's a big deal. That's the thing, and they don't really care if it's flat or not.
This goes back to what I said in the beginning: is that to a Christian, it doesn't matter. And honestly, in reality, it doesn't matter in anybody's working day and paying bills and taking care of your family and all that. It doesn't matter the shape of the earth.
Yeah.
But it opens up the reality. It only hurts the people that don't want to deal with God. That's it. It only hurts them. So to a Christian, it's like, oh man, that sounds like a lot of work to go down that rabbit hole, right? But they're not afraid of it. Not like a lost person is. A lost person is very afraid of something like that. Just like being very afraid of like intelligent design even. We don't even say that it's Jesus who's going to spank you. We, it just has to be some God out there. Then they know they're going to be held accountable. Then there's that chance that they won't just vaporize and they actually, have a take a look at what you've been doing in your life. And that people can't handle that.
I've heard some, so-called Christians out there actually say that this is satanic, that flat earth is satanic. And it's like, why? What's your basis upon that?
Yeah, I've never, you see, here's the thing with flat earth that I've realized recently is all of my videos on this channel have the flat earth pop up from Wikipedia, right? Which is done by Google, which is NSA, which is the government, United States government, who is putting these things on here, and Facebook, which again, United States government, Facebook and Google, YouTube will put these censoring things in there for anything about flat earth, about anything about anti-vaccination. They'll put warnings in there about anybody on 9/11 or whatever the conspiracy is of the day. But they don't put, and that's to protect people, supposedly, but they don't put warning ads up there for any other stupid nonsense on the internet, do they?
Yeah.
And living in the upside down world where things like Planned Parenthood means destroying your family, planning not to be a parent, right? And this upside down world where environmental protection means wrecking the environment, and the upside down topsy turvy. You look at that and you go, okay, this is obviously true. And they're trying to block me from it for no reason, because it's just an idea. If it is truly that stupid of an idea, then there's no threat. Just like Christianity. The reason that people attack Christians so hard is because they know, everybody knows, that sounds like it's right. That sounds like it's right. Oh, Jesus was just a prophet with some really good sayings. I'm like, really? You know what he said is truth. And someone who says they don't believe in truth really has a problem with that. And people know that it is true and it is correct and it is right. And that's why they're going to attack Christians. And that's why they'll attack Flat Earth. Same thing. So no one feels like they're moving. You spinning around at 600,000 miles an hour and, 60,000 miles an hour another direction, and then rotating at 1,000 miles an hour. Do you feel like any of that is happening right now? No.
Yeah,
neither does anybody else on the planet.
And that's there's other things too, like biblical evidence that why I became a geocentrist. Actually, there was a guy that was on your channel. I watched him. I do believe it might even have been through your channel that I got to him, but he's that really old guy. I just forget what his name was, but he was actually really good, and he explained stuff pretty easily and biblically as well. So it helped that way as well. But so okay, now you have a globe Earth. Okay, now you have you see the model of it where you have these layers, and then you have the core, and the core is hot, right? And so how does a flat Earth, like if you look underneath the flat Earth, what's there? Like, right? Like that's something I would like to maybe try to understand. I don't know.
Well, if we're speaking science or scientifically or biblically, biblically I can explain that one very easily, but I'll let Max here explain the science on that one.
Yeah, I had to catch chat, and I don't know, because I've screen sharing, I can't watch chat at all, and I don't know if someone's raising problems. Congratulations, Nick, you're a mod. If someone's causing problems, don't just don't even let them get a sentence out. Timeout. Whatever you want to do. Have fun. Okay, so what was the question?
Like you have the model of the globe Earth, and then at the center of it, you have this. What did I say before? It was
you said what's underneath the Earth? Because the globe model has a core.
Sure.
Yeah, and then you've got like volcanoes and stuff like that. It wouldn't that come from the core of the Earth, right?
No, because nobody has been down that far.
No.
We did a stream on this before. We talked about, when we were talking about the Antarctic Treaty, they did a whole bunch of things during that same time. One of the things that they did, they had Operation High Jump to jump the wall down there, and they started setting off all these nuclear test bombs down in Antarctica, and they did a lot of them. They did like 60 high altitude nuclear tests, and then after they did all that, then they signed the treaty that said no one can go there to protect the penguins. And then after that, we returned to this. All the countries are involved in this, but America and Russia, after we came back, decided, well, we can't get out that way. This is what it appears. Okay, this is conjecture. It seemed to us that it looks like they knew they couldn't get out through the dome. They knew that the Earth was surrounded by all this ice and stuff, and then they took to drilling. And then America and Russia were in competition for seeing how far they could drill. And nobody got below 7 miles because apparently they couldn't get through whatever was down there. And then it cost a lot of money, so of course they shut it down. They gave up on it. So for you take the entirety of the Earth, nobody has been lower than 7 miles. So they tried to poke and prod their way every single way they could, and then just gave up. And I don't know. I relate it to, if you ever seen the TV series or read the book Under the Dome by Stephen King. Stephen King, I think, knew this back in the 70s because he said he had the idea in the 70s and then he sat on it for a while. And it's like, okay, Steve King knew what was going on and just wasn't allowed to write his book. But essentially, you have a dome that comes down on a town of people and how they react to it. And it looks exactly like what would have happened in the 1950s, early 60s with the government, where they realized, oh, geez, we can't go anywhere. Let's start drilling. Let's try and dig our way out, you know?
Yeah.
Because they have rockets now. Nobody could get up that high until the Nazis. Okay, not until Werner von Braun, the V2 rocket that would go up like 60 miles. No one's ever been up that high before.
Yeah.
Werner von Braun did it, and I think they got up there, and the rocket stopped coming down, and they tried to figure out what was going on. And yeah, next thing you know, we have an Antarctic treaty that says nope, no one's allowed to go.
Interesting.
So yeah, as far as no one knows what's in the center of the earth, because I don't know. As far as like the best, this is another thing that's a Dave Weiss thing, because I'll just keep plugging stuff there. He's been doing this a lot for like 5 years at least, a lot longer than I have, and is getting in beyond the things that we're talking about now are very basic and pretty much any flat earther is going to subscribe to. And he's off into the what it does cause gravity in the sense that we know it of things falling down, and some other phenomena that you see in the skies and shifting stars and whatever. He's into all of the stuff that's way more advanced. We'll just put it that way. But the shape of the earth is unknown by people because there's no way that we can possibly know it. It's against the law. I just recorded a video today about balloons and this fantasy idea that everyone was told back when they were kids, and our parents when they were kids, that, when you're old, they're going to have, everyone's going to have rocket cars and be flying to work, and we'll have space stations and all this stuff. And none of that's happened. Yeah. There's all these companies that go out there and say, okay, we're going to have private trips to space, and we're going to have balloons to space, and we're going to have all these things for the private person can buy a ticket and go on a ride to go to space. None of that has happened. These companies are out there that start up and they have their prototypes and they work, and then mysteriously they switch over to just launching satellites, right? And they forget all about the person. It's like, okay, so the government comes in and kicks them and says, you can't do that. You can't have private flights because anything over 50,000 feet, according to the Air Force, is space. Now, NASA and these government agencies might have a higher ceiling than that, but if it's only 50, 60,000 feet is your ceiling for space, that means that, balloons go up to 120 to 150,000 feet probably. So it's like they're all technically in space. Yeah. There's your satellites. Now you can call them satellites because they're in space, even though they're a balloon floating around. And
so satellite dishes or like whatever we're told is satellites, they're not actual satellites. They're weather balloons.
The satellite dishes are actually just ground based.
Oh,
they've had that. Everything is ground based. GPS is all ground based, unless it's a military one that they're flying over some territory like a third world country or something. All that stuff is all 90. It actually has it in this in the hoax book. It's 90+% of all communications is done through wires. Yeah. Okay, undersea cables, wires. All the rest of that you'd figure was going to be like wireless internet and stuff, right? Yeah. Very, 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 very small portion of it is actually bouncing things off things floating in the air. Because why? It's cost too much. It's cheaper to run a cable for 2,000 miles than it is to launch a satellite. Why would you ever launch a satellite? Makes no sense. And then you set it up there and the thing explodes. There goes $1 billion, right? Yeah. Nobody's ever going to do that. You just hire a bunch of cheap slave labor from China and lay a 2,000-mile cable. Yeah, it makes zero sense. So that's the reality of it. Satellite dishes, I have a theory that they're actually bouncing the signal off the dome, which is why I think I'm a dome believer because of ham radio and how radio signals bounce around. And I also think that because you require a special license to be a ham operator or whatever, and it's like, why? And it's like, oh, because you're messing with the ionosphere. The atmospheric heaters like HARP that control the weather and manipulate the weather and do their little thing. I think they're heating up that dome. That's what I think they're doing to try and get a reaction. But that's, who knows? That's a suspicion of mine. But yeah, I'd say all the satellite dishes and all that stuff, if they're not pointed at something coming from the ground, they're probably receiving their signal bounced off the dome.
Okay. Well, okay. What with this Evelyn Wall? She had that question. What keeps the center of the Earth hot if it's flat? And okay, can you guys describe to me what do you guys mean by flat? Because that's the first impression that the problem that I often have is when somebody says flat, you're thinking flat, but it's not really flat, though, right?
Not a globe.
Yeah, basically not a globe, but it's.
I mean, obviously, it's not flat. But if you look in the comparison of, you think like mountain ranges and all this stuff, even with the mountain ranges, in the comparison to the rest of the land, in comparison to how large of the landmass it is still essentially flat. Okay, mountain ranges don't go up that high when you compare it to the entire bulk of what's out there, the entire size of what we know to be our continents and everything like that. Mm-hmm. So what we consider to be flat, there are some people who are concave Earthists or something, and I'm like, whatever. I don't really care. All I know is it's not a globe, because it's demonstrably proven that it is not a globe.
Okay. Yeah. Well, like that's just one problem that I've often had was when somebody says flat Earth, that's the thing that somebody pictures. So obviously, it's not really flat. There's something at the bottom of it.
Well, yeah, but no one can know. I mean, we would say hell, right? Because we're Christians, and it appears to get hot when you go down, right?
Yeah.
So it would kind of make sense. And in the Bible, you're talking about going down in the heart of the earth and all that stuff. Yeah, that would be why it's hot, because God made hell. I don't know.
Okay, well, yeah, that was one thing that often I struggled with, is like, how do you make sense of all that kind of stuff as well? So, but there was a question I want to ask. I can't think of it right now, but man. So, like, do they just launch these weather balloons? Do they launch them like at different times? How long are these weather balloons up there and stuff like that? And how do they go around? Because eventually they do come back to you, right?
I think I got disconnected.
Oh.
I just got booted. My whole thing crashed.
Oh, wow. Oh, that happens to me too. So
I'm still in the studio? How does that work? Interesting.
That is.
Well, now I need to recombobulate.
Where did Jeremy go?
He may have just dropped because he had something to do. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like with volcanoes, that was the one thing too that how do you make sense of volcanoes and stuff like that?
I don't know. I've actually honestly never had that question before. I've never had anybody ask me about volcanoes or what's under the earth. I just figured people were afraid I was going to talk about hell, and then people don't want to deal with their own wickedness. Right? I figured I was safe from that question. Thanks a lot, Frank.
Hey, blame Evelyn.
Well, I'll try. I'm going to try and share again, and maybe I won't be able to share anything anymore. Oh no, now it works. All right. So I don't know.
It got disconnected too.
Oh, okay. Well, he's not in the studio, so I can't.
Yeah.
Well, you just come back, use the same link, it'll bring you right back in, and we'll put you back in. I don't know about below the earth. I know literally nothing about it. I know about above the earth and some of the things that, like, natural phenomenon, if you take a look at them on a globe and how they're mapped, and then you flatten them out to what they would look like on a flat earth style map, they seem to make a lot more sense. So what I have on the screen is, of course, jet streams, where they kind of go all over the place. And I could see it either way. I mean, I don't know. This is apparently the way that they go, right? But then when you flatten it out, they look like that with the hot air and the cooler air, and they run in a circle. It seems a little bit more, makes a little more sense, because this is also the circle where the sun and the moon move. So
Yeah,
one of them things. Yeah, about under the ground, I have no idea. What else you got, man? What else you got?
let's see. Okay, so if the Earth is flat, the sun. What's your view on how far away the sun actually is? Like, what is your?
It's not 93 million miles away.
Okay.
That's as far. I mean, we can't tell how far it is away. There's no way for us to really gauge it, but it is not 93 million miles away. That does not make any sense at all, and there is a lot of reasons for that. I'll just keep the host thing. Here's Jeremy's back. You all good, man? I got disconnected too.
I got disconnected for some reason.
Yeah, I don't think I lost connection. It crapped out my whole computer. They're after us.
Yeah.
Wikipedia, they've been following me around for several videos now, and they finally got me and crashed my browser with their crappy wiki service.
Yeah, Frank, I heard y'all talking about hell and stuff like that. Frank, if you want some biblical answers, we can talk afterwards.
Oh, you can talk about Bible stuff now. It's fine. I mean, we're kicking around layman's. Yeah, man, we're just kicking around layman's term stuff, and we're go for a bit.
Okay. Well, I got one for you. You know, you're talking about the center of the earth and stuff like that. Well, and I know this is supposed to be about science. Well, the Bible is scientific, so. But Isaiah chapter 5, verse 14 says this. And it says, "Therefore hell had enlarged herself and opened her mouth without measure. And the glory and the multitude and their pomp, and he that rejoices shall descend into it." Now think about that for a second. If the earth is round and has a core inside of it, a tiny little core, how can you measure that? I mean, if hell is enlarged itself and is without measure, you can't measure it. It's too big. So, but you can measure a core. You see?
Yeah.
So the heart of the earth, where Jesus Christ ascended into after he died on the cross, that's where he went. He went down to Abraham's bosom, into hell, basically. And so hell is without measure. It's so big that you can't measure it.
So everything under the ground is hell.
Pretty much, right?
Perfect.
So what would be the reference or the interpretation of heart of the earth?
Heart of the earth would be hell.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna roll with that as a metaphor. That's what I'll roll.
Well, and also as well, hell is not the only thing under the earth, by the way. There's other scriptures that talk about fountains of the deep and water under the earth. There's another section under the earth that's not hell.
We already know we got lakes and stuff under the thing. That's how we flooded out in the first place.
Right. So you have hell, which is in the center, I would say underneath the North Pole. And then no telling how big it is. I just think it's just so deep, because it's called a pit. So it's really deep. And alongside of hell, like on the outside of it, the walls, I guess you could say, you'd have like the fountains of the deep and the water under the earth. Exodus chapter 20 talks about water under the earth. And it's like, okay, if water is under the earth, how does that work on a globe? Because the earth's a ball.
When you look at the Bible, when you look at the Bible from a flat earth perspective, it makes a lot more sense. And when it talks about the relationship of where heaven is and hell is, and a lot of the references are obviously assuming a flat earth. You can't make a thing to say, well, the Bible absolutely proves flat earth. At least I won't. But it certainly makes a lot more sense. And certainly back in the time, 2,000 years ago, everybody knew it was flat.
Right.
So why would the globe even enter into anybody's mind if everybody knows the world is flat?
Yeah,
no one's going to write down specifically, and it's not a globe, it's flat. They're not going to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And my thing was back in the day for me, my testimony, I guess you could say, of this whole thing. It started with the idea of outer space not being real. I came to that conclusion, I think, back in 2013, 2014, somewhere in there. I just read through the Bible a couple times, and and just reading through it and stuff. Nowhere does it talk about an endless universe. Nowhere. It talks about the sky being made of molten glass, and like a dome. And we're in the center. We're in the center of it, and the stars shine on the earth, and they're put in the firmament, which is the dome.
You're just anxious to be put into little tiny boxes, aren't you? Now you're a Christian fundamentalist literalist who's a flat earther. You're gonna be living inside a 1x1 before too long.
Yeah. Well, what can I say?
Right. So you're asking about the distance of the sun, Jeremy. What do you got on distance of the sun? I got the picture here, which it doesn't look like it's 93 million miles away, but it's a picture. You get a lensing effect through the atmosphere. But didn't you say you figured it out?
Many let me say this too before I get into that, because back in the 1800s and early 1900s, nobody believed in globe Earth. And this whole globe Earth thing didn't come about to the 60s or so.
Well, a little bit before that, but yeah.
Yeah. So basically, back in the 1800s, there was plenty of people that wrote books. And what I have found out from those guys, from doing basic trigonometry and math, that the sun is literally probably 150 miles off the Earth's surface.
Potentially.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was looking at when I was doing my balloon thing and ran across all of the conspiracy to keep people on the ground. I was looking for high altitude pictures of the sun, because if the sun is close, it seems to me if you go up to 100,000 feet, you're gonna be pretty darn close to that old sun. And amazingly, a lot of them images, there didn't appear to be a whole lot of them around. And I'm like, that's really odd that there's only a couple of pictures of high altitude stuff looking at the sun and the moon. Very few. And you could tell they're real. There is some up there, but it was very, very few. And it's like, is the sun so close that they can't actually go up to when it's up because it would damage the balloon or something? Or
it would literally melt the camera.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'd buy 150 miles, but it's definitely not 93 million miles. That's stupid. And one of the reasons you know that, probably 300 miles would be my guess. And that's just snowballing something out there. Let's see if I can find okay. Well, this is a sort of what I'm talking about. There's a picture in here where it shows the sun. Yeah, here we go. So if the sun was like 93 million miles away, these sun rays are very localized. You see where they're coming out. There's a point of light and it's being filtered through the clouds, and you can tell exactly where that point of light is coming from.
Yeah.
And if the sun was 93 million miles away, the entire sky would be lit up. And all of the light rays would be coming down way like straight lines, because the sun is so huge and it's so far away. It's like you're standing in the middle of the spotlight all the time until it goes away. It wouldn't look like that. And there's the comparison photo here where you have a picture of just a street light behind trees, and it looks the same as the sun. And we know how far the street light is. It's not millions of miles away. And this is the sort of effect that you get. And, it's not conclusive proof of anything, but it is, I wonder why. And, this is, again, it goes off into like the sort of more the Dave Weiss territory of the sun being an actual sort of like not even tangible real, but like an energy machine, or maybe something that's in like a different sort of plane of existence. I don't know what you'd call it. But it's not a tangible thing. It's more like a reflection or an image of the sun. But there's nothing physically there. That is the most recent stuff that I'm aware of as far as researching what's the deal is with the sun. But it's obviously not helium burning in space, a vacuum of space where there's no oxygen, or hydrogen burning in the vacuum of space. I think that's what the official story is. It's just burning really hot like a fireplace 93 million miles away, because that inverse square law apparently doesn't apply in space with heat and light over distances. according to them, according to this guy, light goes forever. And these people. So yeah, this here is pretty much what you kind of get. We have no idea the outside of the edge, but if you hollow out a pie plate sort of a thing in a snowbank, and then that's where we live. So it's not really an ice wall. It's an ice plateau, I guess, or an ice shelf.
Yeah. So like with the sun and moon orbiting this circle Earth, if it's flat, wouldn't you see the sun regardless wherever it was? Because you should always be able to see it, right? Because it's flat.
Well, it's the same reason that you can't see hundreds of miles. It's because we're sitting in an atmosphere that is really actually mostly like water and stuff. I wouldn't say mostly. I know people will ding me on that, but we're living in nitrogen filled water. And Jeremy, you got a thing. You need to like meet you're breaking my concentration. Anyways, we're actually living in a lens. I don't think that there is an image that would kind of shed light on that, but the maximum that you can really see, depending on the conditions of the atmosphere, especially over water, it's actually harder to see long distances over water because the humidity is so high. You're looking through that and that atmosphere of water with some nitrogen mixed in, and it diffuses the image, it distorts the image, and light doesn't travel forever through it. And that's just the reality. So there is a limit to how far you can see. And, your eyes, of course, are just limited they're not designed to see hundreds of miles, which is why you get a camera out. But even on certain days, you'd be out there and something that you knew you could see, say like 20 miles out, like a lighthouse 20 miles away from your place. You see it every day. Some days you're not going to see it. It's just because of atmospheric variables. And that's the same reason why you can't go on your roof and see London. It's atmospheric variables. You can't see forever. And with the sun, it's a very similar thing. If the sun is close, when it moves away from you, you wouldn't be able to see it as it moves away because of perspective, and light doesn't travel forever through an atmosphere. So actually Rob Skiba has a really good demonstration of it, where the sun, if you take an object and it's on a flat table and your eyes are level with the flat table watching the object in front of a wall or whatever it might be. If you pull the object away, it looks like a sun setting. I don't know where I can actually pull up that video, but that is what's essentially happening is perspective. Yeah. Pretty much everything comes down to perspective on how you're looking at it. It's the same thing as, is it us that's moving in the star, and we're moving around the universe, and that's what's causing the stars to move, or are we standing still and is everything else moving? It's perspective and how you're looking at it. And like I said, you're getting into the stuff of the sun not actually being a tangible thing, and not like a burning light bulb up there, but more of a not electrostatic, but a electromagnetic field, like a Tesla coil that interacts with the moon, which is why you have moon phases and stuff. That's a whole different thing. That's all into it's not science yet. We're kicking theories around with it. But the reason that you can't see the sun and the sun appears to set is just because of where you are in relation to the sun. If you have a lamp that's close and you move it away to the other side of the room, you get the same sort of effect.
Yeah.
The only time that doesn't work is when you have a sun millions of miles away.
See, that's another thing, like with the sunsets and stuff like that, that definitely gives the appearance of something that's globe, right? Like it would be going around something completely because it's setting. And that's another thing that really can, boggle the mind. How does that work in a flat Earth?
Sure. What I can attempt to do is actually find a video of the demonstration that I'm thinking of.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be awesome, because to me, it just seems like that's the one thing that seems to be the most legitimate, right?
The most legitimate try and poke holes in the thing.
yeah, like to show what's happening with a globe Earth or a flat Earth, and that way it seems like the globe would be the one to go for because of how the sun sets and it comes out the other side like that. And,
Well, not necessarily, because if you understand art all works on the exact same principle. Like, you have a long hallway and you walk down the hallway, people appear to get smaller until they eventually disappear. That's because your eyes can't adjust enough to see that low of an angle, so they become invisible. And the same thing would happen with the sun, is that as it goes away, it gets farther away, goes down as with the way the perspective is, and sometimes it gets smaller and smaller. But then the thing is that really tricks people up with that is sometimes it gets bigger and bigger and bigger as it sets down lower over the horizon, and that's what really tricks people out. Because as something gets farther away from you, it always is going to get lower in the sky or whatever it is.
yeah.
But when the sun gets bigger, and that's because of, again, you're looking through denser atmosphere, the closer that, the angle that you're looking at the sun is lower to the ground. You're looking through denser air, so it acts like a lens, makes it look bigger. But the effect of it, just like it's exactly the same as an airplane flying away from you. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller until you can't see it anymore.
Yeah.
Because the sun is moving across the sky and moving a farther distance. And yes, but think about it, for what, 10 hours of the day, it's up in the sky. It's only that last 40 minutes, which how far is it away by then, where you get that sun setting effect?
Yeah.
A couple thousand miles by then. Very far away, but still local. If it's only a couple 100 miles in the sky. So that's my explanation for that.
Yeah, that's because if you look at the sun, that definitely shows that something like is going around, right? And that's where the globe really sticks out, and it just, you need to understand, I guess, how the flat Earth would or the flat Earth model would work. So yeah, that'd be interesting to figure that out.
The sun one is just perspective. You can literally do that, like I mentioned, with a table and something representing the sun, and something like a piece of cardboard in front of it to represent the horizon line, and then have someone move the sun away from you. Like, you have it on like a foot peg, right? And then you have it up to where it is next to whatever horizon line you have in front of it, and then just move the ball back, and the tennis ball will set over your horizon line just based on perspective. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. So would you think that like the center of the flat Earth, would that be higher than the rest, or what would you think of that? Like,
No.
how does that work? No, it was just
it could be the center of the flat Earth is just the North Pole, and anywhere other than the North Pole headed away from it is going to be south.
Yeah.
And then the thing about that has to do with, well, how do you circumnavigate a flat Earth or whatever? And it's like, yeah, you go in a circle the same way you circumnavigate a globe. It works exactly the same way. Everything, all of the navigational stuff, all works exactly the same, flat Earth versus a globe, until you decide you're going to try and fly over the South Pole. Guess how many people have done that? Nobody ever in the history of existence have ever gone over the South Pole.
Yeah.
Legitimately, I mean, you could have a news story of Crazy Al who says he did it, but there's been no legitimate things. Whereas everyone's gone to the North Pole, all the different countries. I mean, I think they probably have tourism and stuff up there where you could buy your sled dog pack and go hang out at the North Pole for a bit. Nobody at the South Pole.
Yeah.
The whole circumnavigation thing it proves a lot of things, especially when you look at how flights and things work. And you look at some of these flights that on a globe Earth would make a lot more sense on a globe to go a different route. And especially when they have emergencies when they're in flight, it really pokes a lot of holes in the globe model when there's an emergency in flight and the plane diverts somewhere that seems to be like 3 hours out of the way for an emergency landing.
Yeah.
Pokes a lot of holes in their stories. But flights, especially in the south of the equator, take some very strange very strange turns. I'll throw one of them up here. There we go. So south of the equator, you've got, South America, and you've got Australia. And on a globe, you'd think you would just ride the latitude line this way, right? Nope. Instead, I'm going to go to California, and then I'm going to go to New York, and then I'm going to come back down and add double my trip for no apparent reason, right?
Yeah.
And then if you flatten out the Earth, well, that makes a lot more sense, right? It's because they have to go to America. They have to. And that's just one example, but there's many, many, many of them. And there's people that are all over the place doing, sunlight and moon observations and sunlight and all sorts of stuff. I mean, the stuff that we're talking about now is like baby step stuff. But it's a lot of this stuff here is like not your hardcore proof, but anybody can go to a lake and see how far they can see something. Granted, it's got to be a big lake. If you go to any lake that's 5 miles across, right? If you can see the other side of that lake and see the shoreline, then the Earth is flat. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You go down to the shore and you look through whatever you have, pair of binoculars over a 5 mile across lake, and you see the other side, then the Earth has to be flat, unless you want to believe it's a mirage. That's it. You got to believe that what you're seeing is not real, or the Earth is flat. And you can go, and that's just a simple example. I mean, you can go out, everybody knows they see stuff that's like 10, 15 miles away. Anybody who lives anywhere near like the ocean or anything, they know that they see this stuff all the time. They really think that every time they look out there and they see some island they know is 15 miles away, they can see the island on some days and some days not, whatever. But they think when they see it, it's a mirage. No. Ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. I would like to see what globe Earth people, how they would explain that if when you can't see something from a distance away, but then you take binoculars or a telescope or something, then you can see it again, like clearly. How they would explain that. That's something I would like to hear on their part.
How you can see it again? Light bending.
Yeah, like you can't see the shoreline of a certain beach of a city, right? And then once you take the binoculars, because the water is too high, because everybody would think that the Earth is bending there.
Yeah,
but then when you take binoculars or a telescope, and then you look that you can see further, now you can see the beach line, but you shouldn't be able to because it's supposed to be around the bend.
Right. And they say that's a mirage. It's actually happened before.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That was on my first stream. Actually, I have a picture of it, but 40 miles. Oh. There's a guy who takes pictures every day or week or something of the Chicago skyline from across Lake Michigan. Yeah, this is it. One of them. This one's from a boat, it looks like. But there's a guy who takes it. It's 40 miles from where he takes it. He takes it at a park. It's this one. He takes it at a park, and he can see the Chicago skyline some days. Not always, but some days he can. And you shouldn't be able to do that. That's 40 miles. You should be behind, like, I don't know if it's quite a mile, but several thousand feet of curvature.
Yeah.
And here you can clear, and there's actually on the news. So they actually showed this picture on the news, and then they had to do a special update the next day to say, well, it's impossible that what we're seeing here is the actual Chicago skyline. What you're looking at here, ladies and gentlemen, is a mirage. So they actually say that light bends over and around solid objects like the Earth, so that you can see these, you can see this phenomenon. That's what I mean, is it always comes down to it has to be a mirage. It can't be real. Again, it's not like every day you're going to be able to go out there and go see Chicago. It's a rare occasion because especially over water, you're going to have a lot of environmental changes based on how much water is in the air. But if you're around like Lake Michigan in the wintertime, I bet in the wintertime you could see it clear as day every single day, because there's all of the moisture is all frozen. You got a perfect frozen lake. I think all the flat earth testing should be done like on frozen lakes, because there's no waves, there's none of that stuff. Everything is frozen solid. We'll see how much curvature there is. And that's the other thing, bendy water. There's no such thing as bendy water. Water doesn't bend. Nobody puts water in their glass and then the water's got a concave edge to it. It doesn't happen. Water is used as a level. It always finds its own level, and it's used in construction to do so. I wouldn't doubt if it's a fundamental of science about water specifically having that property. So yeah, I think this is another one. Whether and it's, a lot of people have replicated that photo, and like I said, that's just one. I mean, you've got the ones where this one looks like a boat, yeah, but you've got ones where yeah, this is the one. This is the one that was on the news. You got people that are already doing 200-mile photographs, so this is nothing. This is child's play. But you have the very fact that it's water, which always finds its own level. No one can say that somebody was at an elevation. That's why you always do flat earth tests on water, is you got to prove that the water isn't level at that point. And by taking these pictures and looking over the horizon, or what should be the physical horizon, and seeing something, you're proving that water is level, and you're proving that the earth is flat. And anybody can do this. Anybody. I'm actually a little dismayed. I took my Handycam camcorder out that I got a couple of years ago, and I was impressed with what Jeremy was doing with his footage from his P900. And I'm like, well, I have a 57x zoom on just a Handycam, right? And I started looking at the stars and the moon and all that stuff up there, and it's just about as good as my telescope, which I paid like $400 or $500 for. They're ripping people off with them things, man. Just go buy a Handycam. Ridiculous. But yeah, any Handycam. I mean, obviously a cell phone camera is not going to do it, but anything that has a real actual optical zoom, you can zoom right in on stuff. Conditions, willing. Obviously, if you're out and it's 98% humidity and 102 out, you're probably not going to see much. You're probably going to be in danger of a tornado. But yeah.
So what about, I know you've talked about this before, but when you're in a plane and stuff like that, you can't see very far, and it indicates that the Earth is curving.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's the same thing. It's all perspective. You just can't. It's all perspective. You can see, if you take into consideration how high you are in a plane, 30,000 feet, you can actually see for quite a long ways. Yeah. But there's always going to be a limit to how far you can see. Yeah, and that's because it's not like air doesn't exist. We are swimming in air. Okay, I mean, we are in a medium, and people think that, well, they don't, because they don't notice it. Been born and raised in it, you can see through it that it doesn't exist. But no, everything relies on the fact that air exists, and it is dense and works like it does. There's like 14 pounds of pressure that's on people because of air. It is a actual pretty thick medium. The reason that we can't go super fast and cars get crappy gas mileage is because of air, right? So it is a pretty resistant force. And because of the water concentration and things like that, you're going to have artifacting and light diffusion. Yeah, light diffusion or dispersion, where you're not going to be able to see clearly. It always gets hazy off in the distance, and that's light dispersion. Light from way off there getting to your eyes so you could see it. And it's no difference other than up in a plane, but up in a plane 30,000 feet, you can definitely see a lot longer than 3 miles, because you're way up higher. And that works with a globe model as well as a flat earth model. The problem is, I bet you could see way too far in a plane though. And the proof actually being in a plane is that the horizon comes up to your eye level, even though you're 30,000 feet in the air. That can only happen when you're on a flat plane. It cannot happen on a wall. The horizon should drop away from you the higher you get. That's the way that it's supposed to work. But instead, the horizon comes up to eye level, and that can only happen in a flat plane. And the other thing too is, like, if you're flying if you're in a balloon, I think they may even have that here. If you're in a balloon at a certain, say like 5,000 feet, and there's a bunch of other balloons, and there's like one that's a few thousand feet above you and a couple that are a few thousand feet below you, they appear to be above the horizon, and the ones below you appear to be below your horizon. But those guys, when they're looking out, they're seeing the horizon at their eye level. That's that's all has to do with because it's flat, and it has to do with perspective. If it was a ball, someone would have a different horizon line. People would have different horizon lines in their vision.
Yeah. And that actually makes sense that the water would be a leveling thing, because why would it bend, right?
Right. It can't.
To me, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me either that it would bend like that. But
gravity, man. Gravity does everything.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. Everything will just come back to gravity, and you could explain it away with that. But in the end, you really have to think and wonder, like, is this really it, right? Because you do see these pictures, and it seems flat. It doesn't seem bending at all. But
sure, they say that it is though. And then here's what actually really got me with flat Earth to like, yeah, it's probably true, because all of the things that I know would require the actual true dimensions of the Earth, including GPS and a lot of these other things, none of them actually cared about the dimensions of the Earth. You would think something like a land surveyor or an engineer would use a flat Earth calculation, and they'd have it memorized like off the top of their head, and you ask them about it and they have no idea. I don't know. It's all built into the equation, they say. Yeah, no, it isn't. It isn't. And there, I found out that's why I pursued it, because nobody in the course, I'm also a military history buff. Nobody in the course of history has ever calculated an Earth curve for shooting guns 20 miles away, shooting guns and launching missiles across the English Channel. Never, ever happened. Yet they still managed to figure out how to hit the city. Guns, big guns, even today on warships today, and radar is line of sight. Okay. How do you have radar that can see out like 40, 80 miles, something like that? How do you have radar that can see out that far if it's behind the Earth curve? You could maybe get 10 miles because your aircraft carrier is tall. Maybe 20. I'll even give you 20. But 40 miles is impossibility for radar on a ground-based transceiver system. And then they can say they bounce it off the clouds, and they make up all kinds of stories. But the truth of the matter is it's line of sight. And the way that all of those ships, targeted ships in World War II, was line of sight. Powerful binoculars, dialed in everything, line of sight, and that's how they shot. Well, that's not possible unless the Earth is flat. It's not. Even shore bombardment and things like this, because the amount of drop, we'll say, we'll do the flat Earth calculation. If you're not aware of what this is say we're going to shoot at something that's 20 miles away. Okay, that's what it'd be, a 16-inch gun on a battleship. We shoot at something 20 miles away. So the amount of curve the Earth is going to have, you're shooting around the curve. So you're going 20 miles, and then you're going to go times 20 miles because it's squared. So you got 400 times 8 inches per mile. There's 3,200 inches. Okay, then we'll divide it by 12, and we have 266 feet when you're shooting at something that's 20 miles away. Yeah. So obviously you cannot line of sight something you're shooting at that is supposed to be 266 feet behind the curve. All right. Unless it's a really, really tall building, unless it's like a 200-foot tall building you're shooting at 20 miles away, or a 200-foot tall ship you're shooting at 20 miles away, right? Because those ships are, I don't know, they're probably 75 to 80 feet tall, but there still should be 200 feet behind Earth curve. But yet they do it. Why would they build guns that shoot that far if they couldn't see their targets? Doesn't make any sense. And that's what got me into it. Because people do not use Earth curve in their job unless everybody's got their nutcase friend who is apparently scout sniper somewhere who uses Earth Coriolis effect and has to calculate Earth curve. And they're liars. Sorry. But anybody who's got that cockamamie story about I calculate Earth curve before I take a shot, you're lying. Stop telling people that. Repent. The only people on the planet who calculate Earth curve are scout snipers from the Marine Corps. The only people. They do that out, and they're out there laying on their bellies in their ghillie suit for hours and hours and hours and days at a time, and they're calculating Earth curve when they're taking a shot. Yeah, right. And you know, the other thing too is I'm a flight simulator guy. Jeremy is too. He must have dropped too. I'm looking to let him back in. I'm a flight simulator guy, and I know what a gyroscope is and how it works. And a gyroscope is what planes absolutely used to fly level with the plane so they can activate their autopilot, and then they can go get a cup of coffee or whatever. But in order to make sure that they're flying flat, true, and level, they're using a gyroscope. And the gyroscope does not care about the orientation of the Earth or the plane or whatever. All it does is spin. It's like a top. It just spins really fast and it stays level. That's what its job is. If you could not fly 500 miles an hour from California to Florida or wherever with your gyroscope stuck on flat and level. You can't. You would, if you're flying around a ball, you would have to nose the aircraft down the entire way. If you're going, the faster you go, the more you're going to have to nose down to maintain your altitude at 30,000 feet. That's how gyroscopes work. So I have a feeling that just about every pilot knows that the Earth is flat, and they just can't say anything because they'll be grounded. Because it's like nobody uses this stuff in their jobs. All maps are calculated on a flat Earth, all of them. You take your stuff that supposedly comes from satellites and GPS. It's a coordinate system that they translate down to a flat Earth. Okay, it's so ridiculous. Nobody uses a globe model Earth for anything. Which when you look at it, my last video was about maps. How you can't mapping things out on a flat map does not work on a globe. You cannot transfer your flat map to a globe. It will not work. All your stuff is going to be completely off. The stuff that conforms to reality and what we see in mile distance markers and distance between towns and everything is flat. Okay, it's not globe. Just how it is. You know, it's that which conforms to reality. Here we go. And I've had this picture up now for a little bit. The Suez Canal, right, connecting the Mediterranean with the Red Sea is 100 miles long, and there's no locks in this. Okay, they just dug a trench, making the water an uninterrupted continuation of the two seas. When constructed, the Earth's supposed curvature was not taken into account. It was dug along a horizontal datum line 26 feet below sea level, so it's 26 feet deep, passing through several lakes from one sea to the other, with a datum line and the water surface running perfectly parallel over the 100 miles. If the Earth were a sphere, there should have been 6,666 feet of curvature. See, they have this thing that they did before they figured out the Earth was a globe, I guess, and had to account for that. This is what I'm talking about, is real science, real engineers do not calculate flat Earth. If they did, their stuff wouldn't work. And been looking at actually how land surveyors and things justify that. And they say, according to their own manual, the civil engineer's manual, they says, you don't need to calculate the curvature of the Earth unless you're doing over 100 miles, 200 and something kilometers. And I'm like, 100 miles? You're surveying land, and you don't need to worry about doing, it's called a geodetic survey, which is garbage, by the way. It's nonsense talk. You're saying you don't need to calculate the curvature of the Earth when you're marking down and surveying a project or a piece of land, and you're going to have 6,000 feet of curvature in there to account for on the parcel of land. I mean, how are you not, if you're just doing measurements like that, that's just not going to work. 6,000 feet, that's not going to screw anything up. Not at all. I mean, that is stupid. So anyways, what they say is in the ye olde time manual that I found from like the 1980s, the guy says that when we run into projects where the Earth's curvature would be taken into account, he says that we would just downscale the scope of the project to what we're doing. So if you had to build a 100-mile long bridge, for instance, you would build it like 1 mile at a time. And that's how you do it. Like somehow the earth curve goes away just because you build the bridge section by section. That makes the earth curve go away. Do you know that? Does that make any sense? I'm going to build, as long as you don't build the 100-mile bridge all at once, it's going to be fine. See, you build it 1 mile at a time. Oh, I gotcha. That makes perfect sense now. That's literally what the manual says. Okay. That's literally what it says. So that's what got me, is like, nobody uses this stuff in real life. Nobody. And they have a great example here with the Suez Canal, because yeah, water is always flat. And I'm sure you could take a really powerful laser and tie it 2 inches above the water and the Suez Canal. And I bet you could stand at the other 100, probably 50. I'll say 50. You can go to 50 miles down the middle of the Suez Canal and you could see that light. I'd bet $1,000 on it, actually, with a good enough laser light. Because I've seen people do that with 15 to 20 miles with the powerful lasers that are like a flashlight, you know?
Yeah.
That size laser, and they can see them absolutely perfectly over 15, 20 miles when they're just a couple of inches off the water. So yeah, I mean, just let's do that at the Suez Canal. Sure. But we don't need to, you know, we just go outside or go to our local lake that's of decent size and do things for ourselves.
That would be a good experiment to do.
Yeah. We're always coming up with new ideas. I mean, flat Earth really got started picking up, or people started looking into it about 2010. And what I was going on with the balloon stuff is the government shuts down all the things that let people get up above around 50,000 feet. And I think that's why they shut the Concorde down, was because somebody could legit like crowdfund a ticket on the Concorde and bring all their flat Earth stuff up there and take all their readings and measurements and radiation levels up there and do all kinds of stuff on the flight of a Concorde. They'll treat you like a king at like 10 grand a pop. I think ye old internet and the flat Earth was starting to come up there like, we got to decommission that plane. So regular people can't get up there.
So what does that, like, what is that question here? Water is always flat because gravity keeps it in place. So what do they mean by if it's the way you say water would pull towards the Antarctic?
Well, I'm not sure if Evelyn is using gravity the way that I would use it, other than stuff falls down. Water finds its own level because of what is probably an electrostatic force that pulls everything down to the ground. Like the ground itself is charged. And yeah, I guess maybe the idea is, if the Earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour, why is this what this water is moving with it? And we can't tell. I mean, that's the argument there, is that's gravity. It's like, if I take off in a helicopter and fly straight up, can't I just wait an hour and land and then I'll be at my destination? No, because the air goes with you. And like, what about water? Water goes with the gravity too. And then you go, what about when you take a rocket and you get up to the edge of space? What happens then? They can't tell you.
Yeah. Because
it's a fact that there's a guy who went up to 128,000 feet on a balloon and jumped off and landed 50 feet from where he started. Now, in the hours and hours it took this guy to get up to 120 something thousand feet, the Earth only moved 50 miles underneath him. No, the Earth is flat. The Earth is flat. His gentle breeze carried him a little off from where he launched, and he fell right back down where he was. That was the Red Bull guy.
Yeah, I had seen that. That was actually pretty cool.
Yep. And his goal there was to prove that the Earth wasn't flat, and then he proved it was flat. So good for him. That was apparently, I don't remember. I remember the jump, but I don't remember that was his reason for doing it, was that he was going to disprove flat Earth. And it's hilarious because all the cameras are so fisheyed that you're going from curved Earth to convex Earth to curved Earth. I mean, you could tell it's really bad. They put such a fisheye lens on it that it was comical. The Earth looked comically small, like he was jumping down onto a marble. But there is other footage in there that shows that the horizon was flat. in that Red Bull jump. But the big thing is he landed 50 miles from where he started. And it took him like 4 hours to get up to 100 and something thousand feet, 120.
Yeah, that would be a good one. That would be a good one for them to explain. How does that work?
Well, they don't ever explain anything. Everything is going to be gravity or light bending. If you can see something too far, it's light bending over the curve or it's a mirage. Every single time. There's no exceptions.
Yeah, actually, that I've had a conversation and everything was gravity. You know, it all came back to gravity. And even that one time when you were talking to
I was talking to Jeremy. Talking to Jeremy and Valerie.
Yeah, and everything came down to
everything
gravity.
Is gravity. It's gravity. That's what it's like talking to globeheads, man. That's literally what it's like. Every time we come up with like, hey, you can see too far and we can prove it. It's like, but what about your model doesn't work with the parallax, blah, blah, blah. And I go, well, what about the earth spinning underneath people? And it's like, oh, gravity. Gravity apparently keeps things, the air is stuck to the planet. So the vacuum of space can't pull air off the planet, but I can defeat gravity by using a straw and sucking up water. But the vacuum of space can't, man. Vacuum of space can't. It's ridiculous. It's obvious they've never been there because they make up things like that. I mean, like, didn't someone somewhere think that maybe having a vacuum of space is a bad idea? Because how do you justify having an atmosphere on the planet with having a vacuum of space right next to it? It makes no sense. It violates the second law of thermodynamics. Okay, so you would think if you're trying to scam people, you wouldn't violate laws of physics. All right, just like evolution. If you're trying to scam people, don't violate laws of physics. Just don't do it. Because it's like, well, you can come up with a good story and trick, ignorant people that don't research anything, but there isn't very many scientific laws. Scientific laws are 100% proven true 100% of the time. Every single circumstance, nothing has ever come close to defeating it. These are the principles of core science. There's only like a dozen of them. There's not very many. A lot of them are like parts of other ones that they decide are their own law. But so the second law of thermodynamics basically has several different parts to it. And one of them is that you can't have gas pressure without a container. You have to have a medium to contain pressure because that's what gas pressure is. Well, on the Earth, we have 14 pounds of pressure. Where's that coming from? Because we know if we get out there far enough, we just go to space. And then they go gravity. Yeah. It's gravity holding the air. I don't know about you, but man, air is pretty light. Not exactly a whole lot of mass there. And you've got gravity holding the air to the planet as it spins 1,000 miles an hour, and the trillions of gallons of water that are on the planet spinning 1,000 miles an hour. Apparently, centrifugal force has not entered these guys' minds at all. Gravity can overcome it. And then we have this brilliant idea that, hey, the tides are going to be controlled by the moon. So the moon's gravity field comes in and overrides the Earth gravity to lift up the tides, but everything else that's in the water is just fine. Like, I don't see the boats like launching themselves to the moon because of gravity. How does that work where the moon is overriding Earth gravity and they all have this tenuous balance where the moon is not colliding with the Earth? The Earth is not colliding into the sun. It's all a bunch of nonsense. So what you have to come down to it is when you start like looking at how is this possibly supposed to work? The answer is always gravity, man. It's always gravity.
Huh.
What do you think of that picture? I'd like to go there.
Yeah, that would be very nice. Where is that right now?
Jeremy knew. He said it was someplace in the salt flats.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
Where you have you'll have a pool of water or something after a rain and you get an effect like that. Yeah, that'd be something.
Yeah.
Looks pretty flat though.
Yeah, it is. Looks pretty flat.
Yeah, and the other thing about those.
Okay, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So all these things with NASA's pictures and stuff like that, those are all just computer generated or like green screen and stuff like that.
Yeah, they say that they Photoshop all their stuff. Well, when it comes to pictures of the Earth, they say they Photoshop all of them because they have to. And very, very rarely will NASA use photograph or anything. They will usually use image. If it comes from NASA, they will say it's an image, implying that it's a composite.
Okay. Yeah.
So here, I actually want to go to the actual picture. There's only been like a half a dozen pictures of the Earth. You think all this time we've had all these satellites up there that they'd turn around and take a picture of the Earth, but they just don't really feel like doing that. So we only got a couple, and they keep reusing them, and you can tell that they're fake because none of the continents line up. And I mean, here's one of them. This one's a painting. Okay, this is the most famous one that's probably in like your textbooks and stuff. I know this is the one that they used in the textbooks for the years I was going to school, but that's a painting.
They admit that that's a painting?
Yes. They admit they admit to all this stuff. This 1975 one they used for a long time, and this is taken inside of a balloon by the guys who said they went on the moon mission.
Okay.
There's behind the scenes footage. I think it was a funny thing happened on the way to the moon, where this is a round window, and they're stuffing the camera in the window. They're in low Earth, like 100,000 feet, right? And they're stuffing the camera in the window, and then they're putting like a piece of cardboard up here to give it that look. And that's what they did in 1975. All right. Oh. Then you get this one in 2015, which looks to be basically the same thing. And then they started going completely computer generated, where we've got, our 2007, 1990s. These look like complete cartoon fairy tales.
Yeah, they look very different.
And then we've got the 2012 image where America got a supersize, right? The continents don't even match up. 2002, we got missing continents. So none of them are done right. They're all artist conceptions. But these are all official NASA pictures of Earth. This one looks the best, and I know how they did that one because it's on behind the scenes footage. A funny thing happened on the way to the moon is the documentary. I'm pretty sure that's the one where it showed them filming this picture.
Well, that's interesting. Well, that really goes against what they would say that things are, right?
This is all real. What they do to make it, to kind of simulate it, is they, of course, have thousands of balloons up there for all the various different reasons, about Google Earth, right? They're mapping all the street views and doing all this stuff. It's the NSA and NASA, right? Well, they take all that data and stitch it together, and then they wrap it around a ball. And when you look it up in Google Earth, there's all these black areas and things that show that it wasn't a complete image. And that's why they say, well, we have to Photoshop all of the images because they come in strips. So that's what they say. They have these strips, and then they wrap them around a ball, and then they have to Photoshop it. That's their excuse.
Yeah.
But you can see here, to make this look more real, they use the exact same clouds, copy and paste the exact same clouds into different areas because the artist thought the Earth looked better like that. Wow. It's not a photo. They just do whatever they want. That's not convincing enough. I mean, this doesn't look like it's real anyway. It looks like it comes from a video game. But then you go in there and look at it, and you find absolute perfect duplicates of clouds. Impossible.
Yeah.
That's why I refer to it as a blue marble, because it doesn't look real.
Yeah.
I mean, the best one is the one that's actually is real. Okay. This one here, 1975, I'm pretty sure is a real shot out the window at like 100,000 feet out of a balloon. Maybe the 2015 one kind of does too. I don't know what the deal is with that, but this one is basically just above the clouds looking down, where you still have the haze and everything, and not everything's all crisp. When you get to like 1997, it's like somebody got Windows 95 up and running and paint, and this looks like a video game. There's no haze over anything, it's all shiny. It's like, yeah, they're all fake. And like, why fake it if you can do it? Because they can't do it. They can't get a picture of the entire Earth. I don't think they can get a picture of the entire flat Earth.
Interesting. That is very interesting.
This is circumnavigation. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is also explorers back records of them where the circumnavigating the South Pole, it's supposed to be, a couple thousand miles and take a month, and it ended up taking 3 months, and the guy had to go back and try and finish it. And I forget the name of the guy, but they said they came across it and like kept on sailing and 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 never found an inlet, was according to the guy's logs. It took him like 3 months, and I think he did it twice.
I do believe you had mentioned that one time before, right?
Probably. I mean, everybody, this is basic stuff, and Admiral Byrd, of course, is part of that too.
Yeah, and I had that's one thing that's convincing to me, as long as it's true, right? Mm-hmm. But the fact that he went around and couldn't go beyond certain points, right?
Well, right, and you can't go there anymore to double check, right? Yeah, because right here, off of South America, where my cursor is here, this is like the 60th latitude, and it goes all the way around. So that latitude runs in a ring, and you cannot go below it. So you can't get anywhere near it. And even though it's international waters, once you cross the line, it's like it's some kind of a crime against God to go down there and try and fuel your boat or do whatever. It's not like you can't just land on Antarctica. It's like you can't even drive your boat down there because you're breaking the law for running a gasoline engine or diesel or whatever.
That is interesting.
The sun gets eclipsed by clouds and mountains as it moves over the flat Earth. So this is the perspective issue in a little bit more of a graphic form. It's no different than somebody walking down the train tracks getting smaller as it goes away, right? It's the same thing. That only works with a really local sun, though. All of flat Earth.
I suppose that even though it would be flat, like it would still give the impression of going down, right?
Yeah. Just like ships go over the curve that doesn't exist. It's all perspective.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, and I guess it would be just how big is the entire Earth?
Yeah. Because we don't know anymore.
Yeah.
No way to gauge it. We know how big the sections of Earth are that we live on. But who knows what's over the old ice there? More land? Admiral Byrd said there was more land. Wonder, is it this one? Yeah, it's this one. This is a map that came from somewhere. I don't know where. But this is the ideas of Atlantis and all these other lost civilizations. Is that here's us with our sun and moon, and then you have the ice wall thing, whatever, and then you've got another sun and moon, right? This is kind of like the infinite universe of flat Earth, I guess. I don't know. I don't know who believes in this and who can prove it. I just know that there was a picture of it in here. That nobody knows what's after the ice, including the government. Otherwise, they wouldn't have locked it off. Or maybe that's why, but it seems to me they'd have a lot larger presence in Antarctica if there is anything to see there other than potentially a dome or because even if there was, I guess if people went to Antarctica, they'd absolutely know it was flat. But obviously they knew this. People knew this when they were people were teaching flat Earth in public schools in the early 1900s. I have an interview. Maybe I don't have that on my channel. Dave Weiss does. Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. D-I-R-T-H. I don't know. Dieter. Dave Weiss. He does little 3-minute clips of Flat Earth Proves. Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. It's the acronym for that. He does the little 3-minute clips, and if you search on there for 102-year-old or something, he's got an interview with a lady who says that she was taught flat Earth. And then they told her later on in school that it was a globe. So 102 years old, whatever year she would have been in school. And this is a couple-year-old interview. So yeah, early 1900s, they're teaching people Earth is flat. And certainly in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Here's what's actually going on with our universe here. So your sun's going through the galaxy 66,000 miles per hour. The Earth is orbiting the sun at 66,000 miles per hour while it's spinning 1,000 miles per hour. And you don't feel nothing.
That's the thing that puzzles me.
Right. That's what they say is going on.
Yeah. I mean, you know what they always come back with, right?
Gravity. It's gravity.
Gravity solves everything.
Your small peasant mind can't grasp what our expertism and imagination can show us. That's what it is.
So, what do you think of? I think, for instance, does China see the Big Dipper?
I'm not sure how all that stuff works, honestly, but no, they don't. Northern, we can find a regular map. The hemispheres have different constellations and stuff, and I have no idea how that works. And that was what actually stopped me from being an all-out flat earther and actually starting a channel and doing it, is because I can't figure out how any of that works. I have no idea. But it's kind of like, well, you're at that thing of like, you can't have every answer to everything. That doesn't give you an excuse to deny truth.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know how it works, I don't have an excuse to say, well, obviously the Earth is round. Like, even though I can demonstrably prove the Earth is not round. Okay. I can demonstrably prove that. So to say that, well, our Earth isn't flat because the stars don't work right. And it's like, that's the same sort of logic as like, the Earth has to be a globe because if you look at the sun and the moon, they're round. And it's like, well, are they basketballs or are they dinner plates? You don't know. And
Yeah, exactly,
the Bible indicates that it's a dinner plate. So I don't know. Just saying, I'm going to go with dinner plate because we've never seen the other side of the moon. You know, the sun, we don't know what side's facing us. I look at the planets up there and they always have the same face to me. I don't know where they get that they're rotating or how they can tell, because every time I look at Jupiter, everything looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just remembering incorrectly. Maybe things do move. I have no idea. I'm just saying every time that I look at it, it looks the same to me.
Yeah.
And I've been looking at the stars through a telescope for 10 years now.
So with the flat, or with your theory with the flat Earth, then the stars are not rotating. The stars are stationary.
No, the stars are rotating around us. The planets, that's what I was referring to. You know, they're saying the planets are like us. They're globes in space, right? And they're orbiting, so they're spinning. And I'm saying that I have never seen the planet spin. I've never seen the moon spin or the sun. I don't know. To me, none of those things spin. So for all I know, they're all dinner plates in the sky.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? This is their space station where they got wires hanging everywhere in 0G.
Yeah.
That's
I
brilliant.
seen that last time you were talking about it. I was like, hokey dynamite. That is so rigged.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
So I guess this is like pretty much artist rendering. We have our own fake photos. See, look at our fake photos.
Yeah.
Ours are better than NASA fake photos. Yeah. But you see, here's this effect here. All of this stuff, like the day-night cycles and the seasons, all work out fine on the flat Earth model. There's only minor things having to do with constellations and things, and people would know more about it than me. However, the problems that the flat Earth model has with like daylight, nighttime stuff. I mean, the heliocentric model also has problems with, like, it's night where it shouldn't be, and you know, no, you find out that the heliocentric model is not 100% accurate for everything that it says that it does.
Yeah,
but they roll with it. Just like, oh yeah, the eclipses that are caused by the Earth shadow and the sun and blah blah blah. And no, that's demonstrably false. That moon phases are not caused by anything to do with the Earth. And this is like, if we have a dome, the light will react in this sort of a curved way. Like if you took a pen light over a snow globe, this is how it would act. And this is what we see. You can map the flat earth. I forget what he calls the thing. Dave Weiss, flat earth time and date calendar app, something. Apparently there's a couple of them. Get Dave's, his is accurate, but where he has his thing that works just fine and has the spinning sun and moon, tells you the phases of the moon and all that stuff. So it's not like people haven't done it. Your average flat earth guy ain't gonna know about it.
Yeah.
We can tell you all about the dome and the ice wall, though. You know about that stuff.
I'm gonna have to check out this Dave Weiss guy because I've never actually heard of him before. So I'm gonna check him out.
Yeah, it's
so other than you, like you talking about
DIRTH or something, deep inside the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I got deep inside the rabbit hole. Yeah, Dyer Weiss. Yeah.
His channel is, if you're interested in flat Earth, that's the channel to go to.
Okay.
Because he does little 3-minute things that you'll probably be able to find something that answers a direct question in his little 3-minute deals. There's Dave. Here's his flat Earth conference thing. This is not his podcast one.
What do you think of that Thompson guy? Not a big fan of him or what?
Nathan Thompson?
Yeah.
I think he's okay. He's getting frustrated with his debates. Oh, he's not down. He's getting frustrated, I think, with his debates. I don't know him personally. I haven't talked to him. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, and I noticed that too last time, but things get so derailed because of being flat Earth and stuff like that. It's not really a conversation with him. It's more or less just making fun of the person, right? That seems to be what happens.
Because a lot of times the people, they don't do it. The guy doesn't do a great job of moderating up there, and he kind of lets these people run all over the flat earthers, and they don't actually get to explain themselves, and they get a little frustrated with it. So you can kind of get that. Yeah, there's Nathan. As long as we're talking about them, we'll advertise their stuff. It's just, that's the big thing too, is you flat earthers are just in it for the money. And it's like, no, we actually go out of our way to promote other people that would be competing with us. Like, nobody is competing with each other. We are all trying to help each other because we're all researcher people. So Nathan Thompson runs the largest flat earth Facebook group, like 35 to 50,000 people, somewhere in there. And he's a smart guy and people like him, but he's young and he doesn't have a lot of patience for people. And I'm at that point now where I don't have any patience for people either. So, I mean, it's just how it is. I've had enough of that with dealing with people who want to attack Christianity and things that I don't have any time. The world is going through its growing pains right now. And a lot of the chaff is going to, wood, hay, stubble is going to get separated from actual people that are useful. And, they're just going to burn up with the chaff. And I can't waste a whole ton of time. My job is to put the information out there. So who I think is probably a little bit better in debate aspect is probably Austin Whitsitt. Very smart younger guy, but he uses a lot of big words. So you got to get your debate cap on. But he's really smart as far as the guys that are on there. I do have deep inside the rabbit hole Dave Weiss's channel. Also, if you can handle the profanity and you like comedy, Owen Benjamin is a funny one to listen to. He's a smart guy. He's Christian, believes in God, but ain't super Christian, and gets a lot of stuff wrong when he tries to quote the Bible. But
I know who that is.
He has his big thing. He's changed. Like, I saw you did a thing on like a year ago. He was a globe earther a year ago, and he was completely different because he got pretty much kicked out of Hollywood, kicked off Patreon and all the different sites because of he believed in he basically said that certain things are wrong, like pedophilia is wrong, and giving kids children hormone replacement therapy because parents want them to be a different gender, things like that. He would say things about that, and that they didn't like that. Okay, we'll just put it like that. I can't say too much about everything on YouTube because otherwise they'll throw me out too, and I'm like, whatever. But he has a real good take on what's going on now for people who don't want listen to any preachy God stuff or anything like that, and about what people should be doing, and actually offers solutions to things that are going on. But Dave Weiss actually has on here Owen Benjamin's transition from being a globe head to being a flat earther. Owen Benjamin does live streams every day. And when he comes across a topic or something he's trying to work out in his head, he does it real time and interacts with people and makes jokes and tries to think through things. And he got hung up on flat earth because he was supposed to debate Eric Dubay, who is like the flat earth God guy, whatever. He has a real high and mighty opinion of himself, this Eric Dubay. And he is on these streams and he has thousands of viewers, and not one person can give him a good argument that the earth is a globe. Not a single person. And he's like, I get thrown out of Hollywood. I had to move. I get kicked off of Patreon. I'm in a lawsuit, legal battle with them. And now you want to throw flat earth at me? It's like, that's what I meant with Jeremy. It's like, Jeremy, you're throwing yourself into a smaller and smaller little box. You got all these things that people don't like you. And that's what happens. So, smart guy, thinks very logically about things. And, it's comedy. He says a lot of someone would say coarse language or something. I think it's hilarious. I mean, stop being snowflakes. We don't have time for snowflakes anymore. We can't be all that time for being a snowflake and crying about pensions and what you're making and all that stuff. That time is over. This COVID thing is all about resetting the economy, and a lot of people are gonna find out that they're gonna have to start working. And there's a newsflash to people out there. Whatever you're making right now, plan on making about half of that. So just plan for the future, unless you're in a job that people can't get rid of, like auto mechanic, then don't worry about it. You're going to make a lot of money because everyone's going to be fixing their old stuff. Security guards, people, depending how law enforcement's going to look, but lawn care and all these things, people need all this stuff done. But if you're working in HR and watching YouTube all day at work and making $60,000 a year, you ain't gonna have a job another year. Just letting you know. Words of wisdom. Although it's entertainment, not financial advice. By the way, find a new job. But so that's what I think we significantly pimped everybody's channel. Well, I gotta do you. I don't have you as a thing on this channel. We'll have to. I do have you. So there's your channel. We're talking about Brian Denlinger and fireside chats and all the good things, all the good Christian content. So that's what we got. Anything else you're got questions on? You said your daughter had a question.
Yeah, I don't know if she's on here or not, but I know she was planning on it, but I don't know. I don't even know if she's home anymore. So
yeah.
But I'm going to talk to her and I'm going to ask her some questions, and or ask her if she has any questions, and possibly next time you have a live stream on this, I'll come and ask you the questions.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure you're going to come back with more and more and more, and that's always fine. We do what we can here. I'm going to try and do these, live stream things like every week or so, or depending on however many other videos that I put up. And of course, we got to beat down Denlinger every so often, and Gene Kim and them guys.
You can't leave them alone.
Right. Phil's up here. Hey, Phil. He says he doesn't like Nathan pushing the vegan stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, Flat Earth is a very eclectic community of people from all different walks of life, all different religious aspects, and all that. Because Flat Earth has really nothing to do with a person's theology, except for the extent that obviously God exists, and this place was created for us. Yeah. And the thing is that coming to the grips with that you've been lied to pretty much every single thing that you've been, we talk about upside down worlds, Department of Education is, the Department of Indoctrination. It's not actually schooling you and educating you. It is just programming you and indoctrinating you. And really everything that you're taught in school is a lie that has anything to do with politics, basically everything except for math and science. In science, lie. Okay. And once you get done with chemistry, biology, everything else is a lie. That's it. And if you're lucky, if you make it through biology to where they're not just everything is evolution, every single thing.
Yeah.
It's like you can't label the liver in the body without saying, well, evolution said that this was to be called a liver. Evolution said this and evolution said that. And the real problem is that when you understand that this deception is worldwide by the ruling elite that have been around for thousands of years, doing the same thing. History repeats itself here like every 80 to 100 years. Okay, this is not a new thing. And you go back and you look at what it talks about in scripture about, science falsely so-called and so on and so forth. And, when you're talking about the Christians who believe in Jacob's trouble or the 7-year time of tribulation, where God is focusing on the Jews, you get closer to the end times and you find out why God is so hard on the Jews. Another one of those things we can't talk about on YouTube because they own YouTube. All right, no problem. But it really comes to like through what do you call it? I don't know. It all comes together. We'll put it that way as to how all this stuff operates and how truthful the Bible really is when you see it all playing out. Right now, it's playing out. All of the things are happening, and it's a time where a lot of people could fall apart and say, well, I want to get raptured and I want to get out of here and I don't care and can't deal with it. And it's like, well, if you change your attitude to look for, you're in a great spot. If you know the world is flat and you know God exists and you're faithful, you're in a great spot compared to all these hedonistic, wicked people that have nothing but their boat and their house that they're in debt up to their ears with, and all of their pornography and all their garbage. It's all going away. Yeah. And you at least they fought tooth and nails against you for any little bit of truth. You should really get saved, consider Jesus Christ, and they don't want to hear it. You really look for the opportunities now where it's like, my eyes are wide open. I can see them gathering in the smart cities over there so they can hold on to their cars and their high-speed internet and their pornography and all that. And they're getting their chips. And I think I'm going to go buy myself a plot of land in the country and just do my own life. Yeah. And, you look for opportunities as things crumble. People will go through hard times. You're in these sort of like the civil services jobs, like police and teachers and things like that, and a lot of the useless jobs in government, sorry to say, but all of those are going to be going away. He's like, so all these people are out there, but if you follow the Bible, these times are coming, you're at least prepared for something. And at the end of the day, if you get into really hard times, God will bail you out. Okay. Yeah. And that's really all you need. God controls everything. That includes the flat earth. All right. So exactly. We're in good shape. So as we run through all these uncertain times, you want to call them or whatever, just be like, don't worry about anything. Okay. And don't put a mask on. Don't do that. There is no laws for that stuff. Everybody is exempt. If you look at the law, everybody needs oxygen. Everyone's exempt. You know who specifically is exempt from the law are people with COVID because it's a respiratory disorder. So there you go. That's how dumb the laws are as far as that goes. But it shows you where it's going, and they're rebooting the economy and they're doing their thing, and they're going to keep the little mask and dog and pony show going for a little bit longer. But this is the time of they call this the year of 2020, right? So this is the year that things are being revealed. People are more aware now of conspiracies and now of flat earth and now of all these things like moon landing fake and all this other stuff. People are opening up more now than they ever really have been. And even politicians are giving it lip service and this sort of thing to where, it's the great eye opening. All of people's sin is on the table and all their wickedness. They sold themselves up the river to get super far in debt and have all these problems. And you can't just keep printing money to keep trying to make these problems go away. You can't keep exporting all of our stuff, all of our labor out to China and just be fine. You know, all of these things are finally here. They should have went out in 2008, 2010, but nope, we're going to keep dumping more money into the economy. So here we are. It's time. And, you know, I think that things are going to be better afterwards. I think that the people that are used to being taken care of by the government are still going to want to be taken care of by the government, and everybody else is going to be better off for it because they're going to be all busy with that. They got to take care of the man babies. And nobody wants responsibility. Hey, anybody who's out there who is actually a useful human being, who actually doesn't mind responsibilities and likes taking care of their family and property, and, you know, likes being exposed to new ideas and thinking and stuff like that, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. The guys who care about the fake baseball game that's not playing anymore, those guys, they got problems. You know, those guys got problems.
Yeah.
So there's the big long rant about everything that has nothing to do with flat Earth, but that's okay. That's okay. So anyways, on that note, on that kind of stuff, I think that this stream will probably be on both of my channels, but typically if you want to hear religious Christianity type stuff and like that, I'm at Max Bauer. Just search that in YouTube. Frank really only does that type of content. He's on King's Table. And otherwise, all of my sciencey flat Earth gibberish out there, as the hedonist would call me, all of my gibberish is going to be on this channel. So that covers that. Do you have any final words, Frank? You got any more?
Let's see. Well, you know what? Now that I looked into it, or was thinking about it too, was scripture. When you look at the scriptures and stuff like that, and it talks about the circle of the earth and stuff like that, I guess it never really blatantly tells you it's globe.
No, it never does.
No, and that's something that I found very significant, because I was thinking, is there anything in there that tells you that it's a globe, like everybody explains it? And like, I can't think of one.
If you go to the ancient Hebrew, in the Latin, this word actually could be translated as a globe. That's what they do. They got to go to the ancient Hebrew, and they got to go into nonsense. The actual person who is going to know all about the Bible references and all that is Jeremy, because that's how he was. He figured the earth was flat because of the Bible, and just was reaffirmed by finding stuff on the internet and YouTube and stuff. He is the guy to know all about that, and I'll probably do a live stream that's basically all just the Bible one.
That would be very interesting. One focused just on the Bible, but definitely, I can't find anything in there about it. So
not about being a sphere, no, but all the references to where people are and where hell is and heaven is, it's all flat. The way they're using references, as above, so below, and all those little sayings and stuff. And it's like, well, if the thing is a ball, then where is heaven? Heaven is up. Well, where is that for Australians? It doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hell is down. Hell is down under, right?
Yeah.
Hell is down under.
That is interesting. Yeah, I guess. Huh. But as far as I know, I'm going to talk to my daughter or see if she has any questions. She'll probably maybe listen to this thing or something. But
cool. I hope it actually saves the whole thing. Now we're at 2 hours and a little bit, and hopefully it actually will do the whole thing.
Yeah. I don't know what's with StreamYard, but maybe so many people are using it, they actually cut down the time now for it, but I have no idea.
I was looking at that because my channel was brand new, and I activated it like an hour before live streaming, and I got 2 hours and 40 minutes on my first stream. Okay. It was 2 hours and 20 or something. And then my next one, where I had all of my good sciencey stuff and all of my video clips and everything, I only got 2 hours. It cut me out of a 2 hour and 40 minutes. So I don't know.
Oh, wow.
I would like to record locally, but apparently because I'm the one that has to do all the screen sharing, it doesn't, it's not going to let me do that. But oh well, we'll work through technical difficulties in the future.
Oh yeah.
Maybe someone can, as these go live, do screen grab captures of it. So there's a local copy with all the data, because as I'm pulling up web pages, I close everything out when I'm done. I figure, well, it's on the stream, it's done. And yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up. And I'm kind of running through the we have Deliberate Creation says Flat Earth Clock app is the name of David Weiss's clock app. For anyone who wants to check out the app, is the best tool in existence. So he likes it. And anyone who's, I'm not sure what all it does other than time of day in Flat Earthville. So yeah, we got that. And it looks like everyone's having a nice civil conversation now that we have someone with a big wrench knock people out, which is good. See, I'd like to do this. I'd like to stream to both channels, but I don't have moderators over there. I can't watch both chats, and I can't even watch the chats when I'm hosting. So sorry, guys. When there's more people on and people are having discussions amongst themselves, I can kind of look at chat. But if I'm hosting, it's more than I can manage.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like there's anything else for us. So check out King's Table's channel. Head to my channel if you like the Bible stuff. I do have Bible basic series on there too for people who know nothing about the Bible and salvation stuff, salvation message, and all that good stuff. So Frank, you about done?
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Have I worn you out? Have I enlightened you? Have I done my job? Tell me I'm good.
Definitely. Definitely give me a lot to think about for sure. And it's very convincing. I'll say that. It's definitely very convincing with this flat earth model and stuff like that, how things would work. Because that's the one thing that's so confusing is how does, because it is all perspective, right? How you view things. And once you can get over that hump, then it's kind of like, okay, yeah, that makes sense because, you actually gave it time to think about how this model works.
Sure. And in doing that, this is why I keep mentioning Dave Weiss, because he is into some of this stuff where if the sun and the moon aren't really physical objects, but more or less like not a projection, but like a reflection of an actual object, depending on your local space, the sun and the moon are going to look different between people in two different local spaces.
Yeah.
Based on the environment and a lot of different things. And that is another interesting thing. To me, it all works fine with just perspective, but people that's not good enough. There is other answers out there, but their theory, to where I'm for right now, at least I'm going to stick with hard fact and just kind of play around with ideas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because then I can just go out there and say, well, 8 inches per mile squared. So what are you gonna tell me I can see around curves? I mean, what are you? Yeah, I see too far, right? And I'm happy with that. And yeah, deep inside the rabbit hole, head up there for more in-depth things.
Yeah.
Light emitting diodes, physics. All right, all good stuff. All right, man. Well, you take it easy and let me know when you got another stream going, and I'll head up there or whatever you need me to do.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks for coming, man. And to everyone out there, good night. Take care. Earth is flat. Good night.